In my restless dreams, I see that town. Silent Hill. You promised you'd take me there again someday, but you never did. Well, I'm alone there now. In our special place. Waiting for you.
I got a letter. The name on the envelope said Mary. My wife's name. Mary died of that damn disease 3 years ago. So then why am I looking for her? Our special place. What could she mean? This whole town was our special place. Could Mary really be here? Is she really alive?
To those of you who found me through this video, I will let you know that I do not make many videos on video games anymore. I used to do that back in 2022 and 2023, but in 2024 I did only 2 of them. One on a whim, and the other one because I really wanted to make a video on an IP from my childhood. Although if this video does well on the long run, then hey, I might as well do more of them. The reason for this video on Silent Hill 2 Remake is done because I felt like I would probably have something to say about it, and maybe about the original 2001 game, which I do own on my PlayStation 3 as a part of the HD collection, and I have so played it before I sat down to play the new remake. Unfortunately, my capture card does not work on my PS3, not without some other additional equipment that I do not have as of yet, so we are mostly going with the remake footage from my playthrough here. I originally referenced Silent Hill 2 back in my Resident Evil 7 video, mostly because that game ripped off its initial premise or starting point before spanning into a completely different direction. And then RE Village did the same thing with the first Silent Hill game. But this video is not about copied homework. Unlike Resident Evil survival/action horror, Silent Hill 2 with its remake is a psychological horror game with survival aspects to it, told from the point of view of James Sunderland looking for his supposedly dead wife Mary from the titular town. And this was long before Ethan Winters was turned from a Frank West wannabe into the husband of a missing person in RE7. Unlike Ethan, James knows that his wife Mary has been dead for the last 3 years, ever since she got sick of an unnamed disease, and his internal monologue lets the players know that he has arrived to Silent Hill after he received a letter from Mary to come find her in their
special place
from their last visit to the titular town. Okay now, unlike with my previous recap reviews on video games, I'm only going to recap the first quarter or so, before I'm going to skip closer to the end to talk about what I really want to talk about. I like to believe in a balance between journey and destination, so for those of you who have not played either versions of the game, I'm only spoiling the latter for you, not the former, so you can still go and experience that. Okay, after leaving his car behind and taking a detour through the woods as the road is blocked, James runs into a young woman in the graveyard on the way, who both gives him directions to the town and an image of herself not being mentally all there.
I'm looking for my mama. My mother. It's been so long since I've seen her. I thought my father and brother were here, but I can't find them either. I'm sorry, it's not your problem.
No, I hope you find them.
Once James eventually makes it to the town, filled with more fog and mist than that Stephen King book, he eventually learns that he is alone with disturbingly moving lying figures that turn hostile against him after picking up a radio, and then has to defend himself with a plank with nails. After having heard Mary's voice on the radio and found refuge from the lying figures in a bar, a song on the jukebox reminds him of the time when he and Mary used to spend time looking at the lake at the Rosewater Park, prompting him with a possible reminder of their special place there. Unfortunately, to get to that side of the town, James has to once again take refuge in the Woodside Apartments building, which is another maze to get through with new mannequin enemies that are more hostile than the lying figures, and a naughty young girl who steps on his arm when trying to reach for a key.
Hey! Wait!
While trying to find his way through the apartment building, James also comes across another unfortunate soul named Eddie, who clearly doesn't want to be here either, but James is too busy looking for Mary to help him leave.
Might be best if you just get out of here.
Yeah, you're right. Hey, you want to come with? Maybe together we can find a way out of this town.
Oh, sorry, but I can't leave. Not yet. I need to find someone.
Oh.
And Eddie, be careful.
Yeah, you too.
James also encounters the young woman from the graveyard again, in a very depressed state and holding a knife, which he is able to talk into giving to him when properly introducing himself and learning that her name is Angela. But they are not the only ones James runs into at the apartments, outside of the monsters of course, because eventually James also comes across that monster that is also going up against the monsters hunting him. The Pyramid Head, or the Red Pyramid thing as James described it to Eddie in the original game. After having been forced to survive against it while trying to leave the apartments, James meets that naughty little girl outside again, and to his shock, she tells him,
"You didn't love Mary anyway."
What? Hey, wait!
With that, the little girl runs away, and James is left to meet another monster in Silent Hill.
Mary? No. You're not.
Do I look like your girlfriend?
No, my late wife. I can't believe it. Your face, your voice, you could be...
My name is Maria.
Okay, and that is where I'm going to stop summarizing the game story and implore people who have not played it to go experience it on your own. Mostly because I want to talk about how those three people James met, Angela, Eddie, and the little girl whose name is Laura by the way, represent the three serious endings that Silent Hill 2 and its remake have. Maria does not count because she is a tulpa, but more about that later. Besides the endings representing Angela, Eddie, and Laura, Silent Hill 2 also has endings that can be seen as jokes, like the dog and UFO endings.
Nie! To nie może być prawda.
But also extra depressing endings where James becomes so in denial about Mary's death that he is willing to drug himself to believe he is living with Mary on a VHS tape. And where James tries to actively resurrect Mary with occult methods. But the three main endings of the game are tied to Angela, Eddie, and Laura, not just in their own journeys in Silent Hill, but also in their interactions with James. In his first interactions with them, James meets Angela at the graveyard, claiming to be looking for her mother. Eddie is met at the Woodside Apartments, where he keeps telling James he didn't kill someone. But Laura's first impressions with James comes down to stepping on his hand, kicking the key he needs to proceed away, and laughing at him. Angela represents journey into giving up on reality, Eddie represents denial from the reality, and Laura represents facing reality. In his second meeting with Angela, James finds her holding a knife used for self-harming, which she then offers to James to postpone using it on herself. Inspecting this knife multiple times during the game can then lead to Angela's represented ending. In James's second meeting with Eddie, he is preoccupied with something else, eating, to acknowledge what James is trying to tell him about how
This town is full of monsters. How can you sit there and eat pizza?
And that line only happens in the original game, by the way, since the next meeting with Eddie is moved to a different location in the remake, and James only finds an empty pizza box in the original location.
This town's full of monsters. Who could just sit here and eat pizza?
And when James meets Laura again, in what could be seen as their first proper meeting in the game, Laura confronts James for not having loved Mary before running away again, or by trying to pull James towards the reality he is denying. The next, or the second proper meeting James has with Laura is when he has finally caught up with her and has him confront the reality she represents.
And how do you know about Mary?
I just do. What's the big deal?
Why can't you just tell me?
You gonna yell at me if I don't?
No. I won't. Please, just... I need to know.
I remember James is going to...
Mary's my friend. We met at the hospital last year.
Stop lying!
Which James then denies like Eddie would by calling Laura a liar. There is a saying made popular by the Emperor's New Clothes: truth comes out from the mouth of a child. And refusing to accept the truth told to him by Laura, James is punished by being pushed into the boss fight with the Flesh Lips enemy, which then leads to him going through the nightmare hospital to get out of there. Next meetings James has with Angela, Eddie and Laura, taking place in the latter half of the game, push into justifying their roles in representing the three endings with their own journeys into Silent Hill. Although the remake adds Angela an extra scene in Rosewater Park to build up revelations of her trauma, as well as how and why she has a good reason not to trust James.
Anyway, I'm happy to see you.
Alive. As in...
Happy to see me?
Well, yeah, so...
Alive? I mean, still don't want me to go with you? If we stick together, we might just make it out of here.
Out of where?
This town. Silent Hill.
No, it's fine.
Okay. Oh, you didn't happen to see a little girl around here, did you?
A little girl?
Yeah, Angela? Are you alright?
James, you might wanna choose your words
Angela?
better.
No. Please. You shouldn't be here.
Angela, it's okay.
No, don't touch me!
When James meets Eddie again, he has begun to slip into the denial he was in when they first met, or worse, begun to accept what he has done to the point of not seeing it as a bad thing.
Ain't no big deal. Just put the gun to their head and...
You can't just kill someone because the way they looked at you.
And that brings us to what Angela and Eddie had done to be in Silent Hill. Before I continue, I feel obligated to address that I am not qualified to talk about the following topic, but I do recognize the subject matter in how severe it is as a reality-based horror that does exist in real life, such as domestic and parental abuse that Angela has been a victim of. The game implies that Angela's father and maybe even her brother were guilty of the first one, but the way how Angela was first introduced and said to be looking for her
Mama?
in Silent Hill, there is the implication that her mother knew about the abuse and did nothing but victim blamed Angela about it. Count the knife James takes from her with a newspaper found before his next meeting with Angela. The game's implication for Angela's presence in Silent Hill being that she eventually had enough with the abuse and retaliated with that knife against her father. And the boss fight in this encounter with Angela is named the Abstract Daddy for that reason. But the fact that James fights it instead of Angela is probably not doing any favors for the closure she is supposed to get from it.
It's okay. It's over.
Don't even try.
Try what?
Like you don't know. I see what you're doing. It's always the same with you. You're only after one thing.
Angela, please.
You don't have to lie. Go ahead. Say it. Or you could just force me. Like he always did. You disgusting pig. I hate you. I hate you.
Angela. I don't know who you think I am, but I don't want to hurt you. I just want to get my Mary back.
You're Mary. Your own little Mary. At least she was. For a while.
What?
Admit it. You didn't want her around anymore.
No.
You probably found someone else.
No!
I need to find my mama.
As for Eddie, he shot a dog and its owner as a retaliation for having perceived the way how they looked at him as bullying him. Which, as a former fat kid, I can kind of understand where this perception comes from. But Eddie is still a grown man. An immature grown man whose actions could have probably been seen as a cry for help, but ultimately the reason why Eddie is in Silent Hill is because he ran away from the dog and its owner he shot, aka away from taking responsibility for his actions. So he is turned into a boss fight for James to put him out of his misery. In short, Angela is in Silent Hill because she cannot accept the freedom she fought for herself from her abuse, and is looking for her victim-blaming mother to do what she needs to do to her in order to accept her freedom. Or that is what I assume Silent Hill to be expecting from Angela. The same way how the town is confronting Eddie with his victims to make him take responsibility for his actions. Take responsibility for his actions. Unfortunately, Angela and Eddie are not the main characters like James is, and they are so reduced into being parallels to how he can end up in Silent Hill, giving in to the guilt or denial of what he has done. And then there is Laura, still representing the reality James is running away from and is trying to catch, in the form of a little girl in a
town full of monsters.
James meets Laura again in the Lakeview Hotel, where she sneaks up on him and gives him a letter Mary had sent to her, wishing Laura happy 8th birthday.
My dearest Laura, I'm leaving this letter with Rachel to give to you after I'm gone. I'm far away now. In a quiet, beautiful place. Please forgive me for not saying goodbye before I left. And Laura, about James. I know you hate him because you think he isn't nice to me, but please, give him a chance. I love you, Laura. I love you like my very own daughter. I wish things were different. I wish we could be happy together, like we talked about. Happy 8th birthday, Laura. Your friend, Mary.
Laura, how old are you?
I turned 8 last week.
That means Mary couldn't have died 3 years ago. Could she really be here? Is this the quiet, beautiful place she was talking about?
This is now the first step of James beginning to accept the reality of his situation, and how Mary didn't die 3 years ago. Because next is James's turn to acknowledge his crime for being in Silent Hill like Angela and Eddie were.
Don't get all holy on me, James. This town called you too. You and me are the same. We're not like other people, don't you know that?
The truth James has been in denial over during most of the game is that the Mary whom he remembers dying 3 years ago was the healthy Mary before she got sick, and was then replaced with a slowly dying and bitter about it Mary, with the in sickness and health only getting both her and James as far as possible. During her time in the hospital, Mary befriended Laura and got some hope to think that she could adopt her when she gets better, but when that never happened, she wrote 2 letters to be given to James and Laura after her passing, to hope James would have adopted Laura as her last wish. But before that could happen, those 3 years of bitter coexistence were eventually brought to the limit when Mary was allowed to stay at her and James's home, where being her caretaker pushed James into And that is the crime James has been running away from in Silent Hill, with Laura representing the reality reminding him of it, of how James had killed Mary, either as a form of euthanization and letting Mary out of her misery, or to just make Mary go away because James couldn't go on with in sickness and health anymore. Whichever it was, James was ultimately horrified of what he had done, and then acted in a kind of fugue state in putting Mary's dead body into his car and driving to Silent Hill, intending to do whatever he was planning to do, until he woke up from this fugue state in coming back to reality when the game began. Then James's mind made up a story for him to justify being in Silent Hill. He got a letter from Mary, whom he remembers having died 3 years ago, to him, and asking him to come pick her up from their special place. James does carry this letter on his person most of the game, but after having killed Eddie, the letter turns into a blank piece of paper to remind him it was never real. All of that comes back to James when he watches a videotape he and Mary had done during their previous visit to Silent Hill. And when he finally confesses to what he has done, Laura is there to hear his confession as a representation of the reality.
Mary's gone. she's dead.
Liar. That's a lie.
No. It's the truth.
She died because she was sick.
I killed her.
Killer! Why'd you do it? I hate you! I want her back. Give her back to me. I knew it. You didn't care about her. I hate you, James! I hate you! I hate you! I hate you! She was always waiting for you. Why? Why?
I'm sorry. Mary, you know, isn't here.
And from there, what remains of Silent Hill 2 is for James to deal with the reality he has awakened into. Depending on how the player has played the game up to the end, James's final journey to the final boss can lead him to the ending that is represented by Angela, Eddie, or Laura. James actually has his final meeting with Angela on his way to the final boss, who has completely given up on trying to find her mother after mistaking James for her.
Mama, I was looking for you. You're the only one left. Maybe then I can finally rest. Mama. What's wrong? Wait, you're not my mama. It's you.
I'm sorry, Angela. I think you were right. What we're looking for, it's not here. Not anymore.
Thank you for helping me earlier, but I wish you hadn't. Even Mama said it. I deserve what happened.
No, Angela, that is not true.
Don't pity me. I'm not worth it. James, give me back the knife.
No, I won't.
Saving it for yourself.
And then, after also having scolded James for what she sees as white knighting, Angela walks away into what is meant to symbolize her taking her own life. That is an ending that could be waiting for James after having defeated the final boss, because after this experience, he can no longer live with what he has done. Going back to that fugue state James was in after having killed Mary, his initial intentions for having come to Silent Hill could have been what he ends up doing in the In Water ending, where James returns to his car with Mary's lifeless body in the back seat and drives them both to their watery grave, just like how Angela is walking up these stairs, and let the fires of her guilt consume her.
It's hot as hell in here.
You see it too? For me, it's always like this.
Then going back to Eddie in how I see him representing the Maria ending as a parallel to James, as Maria is in both versions of the game portrayed by the same actress as Mary. She is a tulpa, created from the frustrations James developed during those 3 years when Mary was sick and dying, as an idealized version of Mary in James's perspective, and not a real person, since she is never seen or interacted by anyone else but James and the monsters in town, with whom James then spends long enough time to start taking Mary's place, before Maria starts to emulate her final days to get James to see her like he did Mary. She is even killed twice or 3 times by the Pyramid Head to emulate how James remembers Mary having died differently. By the way, on a personal note about the design changes on Maria between the original game and the remake, I'm just going to say that beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, and different people have different tastes. Some people are into bare midriffs, and some people are into skin-tight dresses. And when it comes to delivering Maria's lines, blame the voice director for having chosen these takes, not the voice actress.
Do I look like your girlfriend?
Do I look like your girlfriend?
My name is Maria.
My name is Maria.
I don't look like a ghost, do I?
I don't look like a ghost, do I?
Okay, anyway.
Anyway? What do you mean, anyway?
Getting to Maria's named ending, James ends up falling to the fantasy of having accepted that he killed Mary, not as a mercy killing, but to get her out of the way and move on with his life. AKA refuse to take responsibility for his actions and live in a fantasy with an imaginary girlfriend.
Better do something about that cough.
Sounds like Eddie refusing to take responsibility for his actions and having learned the wrong lesson from his experiences in Silent Hill.
Maybe I am. I'm nothing but a fat, disgusting piece of shit. But you know what? It doesn't matter if you're smart, dumb, ugly, pretty. It's all the same once you're dead. And a corpse can't laugh!
It's not Maria's fault. She was literally created for the purpose of being a test of character for James. And in her named ending, James ended up failing it. But then when it comes to the Leave ending, where James passed that test, there Maria is left without a purpose in becoming the final boss, like she was in the Water ending too, while Mary herself, as an angry tulpa probably too, was the final boss in Maria's named ending. However, in explaining how Laura is meant to represent the Leave ending, besides being there walking away from Silent Hill with James, she is also an 8-year-old girl alone in the
town full of monsters.
And as a responsible adult, James should also prioritize in getting her to safety. That is what makes In Water and Maria endings not only selfish, but also irresponsible of James to deciding to let his sorrows and or delusions take over, rather than try to help himself by helping someone else. In this case, Laura, whom Mary wanted but was unable to adopt. Laura also tells Eddie in her scene with him that he should just go back and apologize for what he did.
So what'd you do? Robbery? Murder?
Nah, nothing like that.
Huh, you're just a gutless bastard.
What would you have to say that for?
I thought you said the cops were after you.
No, I just ran because I was scared. I don't know what the cops are doing.
But if you did something bad, why don't you just say you were sorry? I guess I run away a lot too.
It's no good. They wouldn't listen. Nobody will ever forgive me.
So if Eddie had listened to her and left Silent Hill to take responsibility for his actions, he probably would not have ended up as a damn frustrating boss fight in this remake. The original game has spoiled me on how simple that boss fight was there. But anyway...
Anyway? What do you mean, anyway?
The nuance of Silent Hill 2 comes from how none of the endings are presented as the right or the canonical one, and I have read from other people's opinions that most lean towards favoring the In Water ending due to its symbolic beauty and some romanticism on how James joins Mary in death. In Water is also the ending that was chosen for the novelization of the game, in being a definitive ending for James's journey in Silent Hill, while Maria and Leave endings open up some questions on how James could move on in his life following this experience. Well, with Maria coughing as they are leaving together without even thinking about where Laura is, and with James barely acknowledging the coughing as something for Maria to deal with, who exactly would cite it as their ending of choosing? The Leave ending with Laura is presented as the most hopeful ending, with James having healthily moved on with a new purpose in life as Laura's adopted father. But then there are the legal consequences that James would have to face when they return to civilization for having committed an unlawful euthanization. Also, if Mary's body is still on the backseat of James's car, as implied by the build-up to the In Water ending, Did James re-explain the circumstances of her death to Laura when meeting up with her again, and tell her that she can see Mary one more time for when they are going to push her inside the car to the lake before they will move to somewhere else with new identities? You know, I can now see how some people tend to see In Water as their favorite ending. It leaves less questions asked, while giving James some disturbing form of peace, for the price of leaving Laura to fend off on her own, which Mary would probably not have wanted to happen to her. That is pretty much what I felt like I had to say about Silent Hill 2, be it both the original game or the remake, and without turning this into a game review by also acknowledging the gameplay. Although, if I want to name one particular point in the remake that made me frustrated enough to go look up a guide, it was this part in the Nightmare Hospital. 1 year they've been watching me, so many pills they fed me. When a loud hour comes, I tremble every time the light falls. Am I supposed to... No, that was obviously not what I was supposed to do. What's what going on? Still 6 pills. Okay. Okay, I tried. How is that supposed to be figured out that way? Okay, I now know what it's supposed to be, but I don't get it. How is it supposed to be? I don't understand. How was I supposed to figure that out without a guide? Someone watch this in the future. If you know how this makes sense, write it down into the comments. But to finish this video on the topic I wanted to talk about. Even when the dog ending and the UFO ending do not have characters representing them, and Maria as Mary's tulpa may represent the rebirth ending, I have come to see from my experience of having played both versions of Silent Hill 2 that Laura, Eddie, and Angela, as the only actual people running around Silent Hill with James, are not only parallels to him, but also representations of the 3 main endings of the game, telling you, the player, to leave Maria in water.
James.
In the original game, if you were able to get the great knife, you could have also used it to deliver the final blow, but... Let's use the lead pipe. And that is what I felt like I had to say about Silent Hill 2. I'm next going to move on to doing a 4-part Batman video series, but like I said in the opening, if this video does well on the long run, then I might end up doing more like it. So now I ask that you like this video, comment what thoughts you may have about Silent Hill 2's endings being represented by Laura, Eddie, and Angela, or about your own experiences with the new remake or the original game. Share this video for more people to see, and subscribe to know for when the next video will be coming out. Also ding the bell to be alerted for when I will be doing gaming streams for a chance to chat with me, and may your heart be your guiding key.